The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sienna's downtown loft like bullets against bulletproof glass. I should have known that sound was a warning, should have grabbed Maribel's hand and walked out right then. But hindsight's a luxury you can't afford when you're about to watch your entire life explode in front of 20-something influencers with their phones already recording. "Truth or dare, anyone?" Sienna Clark's voice cut through the chatter like a blade through silk. She was perched on the edge of her white leather couch, wine glass in hand, that predatory smile I'd learned to recognize but never quite understood. Until tonight. My name's Cole Turner. 28 years old, software QA analyst for a mid-sized tech company in Portland. I spend my days finding bugs in other people's code, which is ironic considering I was about to discover the biggest bug in my own life. My wife Maribel sat beside me, her perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around a craft cocktail that probably cost more than my lunch budget for the week. She worked in influencer marketing, which meant she got paid to convince people to buy things they didn't need with money they didn't have. "Oh, God, we're not in college anymore, Sienna," laughed Jessica, one of Maribel's work friends. She had that fake laugh that sounded like breaking glass. "Come on, it'll be fun," Sienna insisted, and I noticed how her eyes kept flicking between Maribel and me. "We'll keep it clean, mostly." The group was typical Portland creative class. Lots of expensive haircuts, vintage band t-shirts that cost more than actual vintage band t-shirts, and that particular brand of smugness that comes from thinking you're changing the world by posting about sustainable coffee cups. Landon Walsh sat across from us, Sienna's boyfriend of 2 years. 30 years old, worked at some startup that claimed to be disrupting the food delivery space. He had the kind of face that looked like it had never been punched, but probably should have been. "I'm in," Maribel said, and I felt her squeeze my hand. Her palm was sweaty, which was weird because Maribel never got nervous at parties. If anything, she thrived on them. "Cole's in too, right, babe?" I nodded, though something in my gut was already churning. Maybe it was the Thai food we'd grabbed on the way over, or maybe it was the way Sienna kept staring at my wife when she thought I wasn't looking. "Perfect," Sienna clapped her hands together. "I'll start. Truth or dare, Maribel?" "Truth," Maribel said without hesitation. "What's the biggest lie you've told in the last 6 months?" The room went quiet except for the rain and the low hum of conversation from the kitchen where a few stragglers were mixing drinks. Maribel's grip on my hand tightened. "That's easy," she said with a laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I told Cole I loved the anniversary dinner he cooked for me. It was terrible, like truly awful. I ordered pizza after he went to bed." Everyone laughed, including me, though it stung a little. I'd spent 3 hours on that dinner, watching YouTube tutorials and everything. "Your turn," Sienna said to Maribel. The game went around the circle. Harmless stuff, mostly. Who had a crush on their yoga instructor, who had lied about their age on dating apps before they were coupled up, who had pretended to be sick to get out of work. The kind of confessions that felt scandalous after a few drinks, but would be forgotten by Monday. Then it was Sienna's turn again. "Cole," she said, and her voice had changed somehow. Sharper. "Truth or dare?" "Truth," I said, because I'm not stupid enough to take a dare from someone who was looking at me like I was a puzzle she was about to solve. "Have you ever kissed someone other than Maribel since you've been married?" "No," I said immediately. "Never even thought about it." "Interesting," Sienna murmured. "My turn then. I choose dare." "Okay," said Brad, some guy who worked with Landon. "I dare you to kiss the person in this room you find most attractive." That's when everything went sideways. Sienna stood up, walked over to where Maribel and I were sitting, and without hesitation, leaned down and kissed me. Not a peck on the cheek. A real kiss, lips to lips, lasting long enough that everyone in the room stopped talking and started staring. I was too shocked to pull away immediately. When I finally did, Sienna was smiling that same predatory smile, but now I understood what she was hunting. Maribel screamed. Not a gasp, not a shout, but a full-throated scream like she'd been stabbed. She was shaking, her face white as the leather couch, her eyes wide with something that looked like terror. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Maribel shrieked at Sienna. "That's my husband!" Sienna didn't even blink. She straightened up, smoothed down her dress, and said in the calmest voice I'd ever heard, "I only did what you did first." The room went silent. Even the rain seemed to quiet down. "What are you talking about?" Maribel's voice was higher now, desperate. Sienna pulled out her phone. "Should I show them the photos, or do you want to explain why you've been meeting my boyfriend at the Marriott downtown every Tuesday for the last 3 months? The sound Maribel made wasn't quite a gasp and wasn't quite a sob. It was the sound of someone's world ending in real time. I know because mine was ending too, just more quietly. "You're lying," Maribel whispered, but her voice had no conviction in it. Sienna swiped through her phone with the casual efficiency of someone giving a PowerPoint presentation. "Tuesday, October 3rd. You told Cole you had a client dinner. Location services show you at the Marriott from 6 to 9 p.m. Landon told me he was at his CrossFit class, but funny thing, his gym doesn't have classes on Tuesdays." She turned the phone so everyone could see. Screenshots of location data, timestamps, everything laid out like evidence in a courtroom, which, I realized, is exactly what this was. Tuesday, October 10th. Same story, same hotel, same lies. Tuesday, October 17th. She kept swiping. Should I keep going, or are we all caught up now? Landon had gone pale. He was staring at Sienna like he'd never seen her before, which maybe he hadn't. I was starting to think none of us had really seen Sienna Clark. "How did you—" Landon started. "How did I get your location data?" Sienna's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "We share a phone plan, remember? Family tracking. You insisted on it for safety reasons. Turns out it's great for other things, too." I looked at Maribel, really looked at her. The woman I'd been married to for 3 years, lived with for 5, thought I knew better than anyone. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streams. "Cole, I can explain," she said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "Can you?" "Because I'm really curious how you explain 3 months of Tuesday night hotel visits." "It's not what it looks like." "What does it look like?" I asked. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, like it was coming from somewhere far away. "It looks like you've been screwing my boyfriend," Sienna said helpfully, "which is exactly what it is." The room erupted. Everyone started talking at once, phones came out, and I realized this was about to become content for someone's social media. The thought made me sick. I stood up. "I need some air." "Cole, wait." Maribel grabbed my arm. "Please, let me explain." "Explain what? How you've been lying to my face for 3 months? How every Tuesday when you came home talking about your difficult client, you were actually coming home from screwing him?" I gestured at Landon, who was now having his own whispered argument with Sienna. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Maribel? Help me understand." She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. No words came out. "That's what I thought," I said, and walked toward the door. Behind me, the party was dissolving into chaos. People were taking sides, demanding details, recording everything for their Instagram stories. I could hear Landon trying to defend himself, Maribel sobbing, Sienna's voice cutting through it all with more evidence, more timestamps, more proof of the elaborate lie my marriage had become. I made it to the hallway before the elevator doors closed, and I was alone for the first time since my life had imploded. The elevator was one of those modern ones with mirrors on 3 sides, so I got to watch myself fall apart from multiple angles. I looked exactly like what I was, a guy who'd just found out his wife was cheating on him at a party full of people who would be gossiping about it for months. My phone buzzed. Text from Maribel. Please come back. We need to talk. Then another. It's not what you think. Then another. I love you. I turned off my phone. The rain had gotten worse by the time I made it to the street. I didn't have a car. We'd taken an Uber to the party, so I started walking. Portland in November is not a city you want to walk through in the rain, but I needed to move, needed to think, needed to figure out what the hell I was going to do now. By the time I made it home to our apartment in the Pearl District, I was soaked through and had made several decisions. First, I was going to verify everything Sienna had shown us. Second, I was going to figure out exactly how long this had been going on. Third, I was going to decide whether my marriage was worth saving. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Our apartment felt different when I walked in. Same furniture, same layout, same framed photos of our wedding and various vacations, but it all felt like props in a play I hadn't realized I was performing in. I went straight to our shared laptop. Maribel wasn't careful about logging out of things, which had never bothered me before because I'd trusted her. Funny how trust works. It's invisible until it's gone, and then its absence is the loudest thing in the room. Her Google Calendar was still open. I scrolled back through the last few months, looking for Tuesdays. Client dinner with Morrison Group. Late meeting with Portland Brands. Networking event downtown. Every Tuesday for the last 3 months, some variation of the same lie. I checked our shared credit card statements. No charges at the Marriott, but that made sense. Landon was probably paying. What I did find were charges at a lingerie store I'd never heard of, a salon that specialized in intimate waxing, and a restaurant that I now realized was probably where they'd been having dinner before heading to their hotel room. My phone started buzzing again, Maribel calling. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. Cole, please. I know how this looks, but it's complicated. Sienna planned this whole thing. She's been trying to break us up for months. Please come back so we can talk. I love you. This doesn't have to ruin everything. I deleted the message and called my sister Paige. She lived in Seattle, worked as a nurse, and had never liked Maribel. At the time, I'd thought it was jealousy. Now I wondered if she'd seen something I'd missed. Cole, it's late. What's wrong? Maribel's been cheating on me, I said without preamble. Silence. Then, how did you find out? Her best friend exposed her at a party tonight, in front of everyone. Jesus, are you okay? I don't know. I don't think so. Can I ask you something? Anything. Did you know or suspect? Another pause. I thought something was off the last few times I saw you guys together. She seemed distant, distracted, but I didn't want to say anything without proof. What kind of off? She kept checking her phone, like constantly, and she'd get this weird smile when she read texts, then quickly put the phone away when she noticed me watching. I figured she was probably just obsessed with work, but you thought it might be something else. The thought crossed my mind. I'm sorry, Cole. I should have said something. No, you shouldn't have. I wouldn't have believed you anyway. We talked for another 20 minutes. Paige offered to drive down, but I told her I needed to handle this myself. After we hung up, I sat in our living room, my living room now, I guessed, and tried to figure out what I was feeling. Anger, obviously. Betrayal, definitely. But underneath all that was something else. Relief. Because now I understood why I'd been feeling like something was wrong for months. Why Maribel had seemed distracted. Why our conversations had felt forced. Why she'd been working late more often and coming home tired and distant. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I'd been right to trust my instincts. The apartment door opened around midnight. Maribel came in quietly, probably hoping I'd be asleep. I was sitting in the dark living room, still in my wet clothes. Cole? Her voice was small, uncertain. I'm here. She turned on the light, and I got my first good look at her since the party. Her makeup was completely gone, her hair was a mess, and her eyes were red from crying. She looked younger somehow, more vulnerable than I'd seen her in years. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Sure," I said. "Let's talk." Maribel sat on the edge of our coffee table, facing me. She'd changed out of her party dress into sweatpants and one of my old t-shirts, which felt like a calculated move to remind me of better times. "I don't know where to start," she said. "How about the beginning? When did it start?" She took a shaky breath. 3 months ago. But Cole, it's not what you think." "What do I think?" "That I don't love you anymore. That this was planned. That I wanted to hurt you. Didn't you?" "No!" The word came out louder than she'd intended. "I never meant for this to happen. It just did. Things don't just happen, Maribel. You made choices. Every Tuesday for 3 months, you made the choice to lie to me and meet him at that hotel." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "It wasn't supposed to go on this long." "How long was it supposed to go on?" "I don't know. I thought it would just be once, maybe twice. I thought I'd get it out of my system and that would be it." "Get what out of your system?" She looked down at her hands. "I've been feeling trapped, Cole. Like my life was on autopilot. Work, home, the same conversations, the same routines. I felt like I was disappearing." "So you decided to screw your best friend's boyfriend?" "It wasn't like that. It started as just talking. Landon understood what I was going through. He was feeling the same way with Sienna." "How convenient." "Don't be sarcastic. This is hard enough." "Hard for who? You? Because from where I'm sitting, you had 3 months to figure out how hard this was. You had 3 months to talk to me about feeling trapped. You had 3 months to suggest counseling or a vacation or literally anything other than what you chose to do." She started crying again. I know I should have talked to you, but I didn't know how. You're so stable, so content with everything. I didn't think you'd understand. Try me." "What?" "Try me. Right now. Explain to me how you were feeling. Help me understand." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Do you remember what you wanted to be when you were a kid?" "A video game designer." "And what do you do now?" "I test other people's games for bugs." "Exactly. And you're fine with that. You're happy with that. But I wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to travel and take pictures of places no one had ever seen before. Instead, I write Instagram captions for teeth whitening products. So change jobs. It's not that simple. Why not? Because we have a mortgage. Because we have car payments and student loans and credit card debt. Because someone has to be practical. And you decided that someone was you." "Yes. And you resented me for it." She was quiet for a long time. "Maybe. A little." "So you punished me by sleeping with Landon?" "It wasn't punishment. It was escape." "From what?" "From being responsible Maribel. From being mortgage-paying, bill-managing, future-planning Maribel. With Landon, I could just be free." I stared at her. "Do you hear yourself right now?" "What do you mean?" "You're talking about our marriage like it was a prison sentence. Like I was your warden instead of your husband. That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant. And you know what the really messed up part is? If you'd told me you were unhappy, if you'd said you wanted to quit your job and try photography again, I would have supported you. We could have figured it out together." "Could we have? Really? Or would you have given me that look you get when I talk about things that aren't practical?" "What look?" "The one you're giving me right now, like I'm being naive and irresponsible." I realized she was right. I was looking at her exactly like that. "Maybe because right now you are being naive and irresponsible. You blew up our marriage because you were bored." "It's more complicated than that." "Is it?" "Because it seems pretty simple to me. You were unhappy, so instead of talking to your husband about it, you decided to start screwing someone else. And not just anyone, your best friend's boyfriend. How did you think this was going to end?" "I thought it would just end. I thought we'd both realize it was a mistake and go back to our normal lives." But that's not what happened. No. Her voice was barely a whisper. I started looking forward to Tuesdays. They became the best part of my week. That hit me like a physical blow. The best part of your week? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it like that. But it's true. Yes. We sat in silence for a few minutes. I could hear our upstairs neighbor's TV through the ceiling, some late-night talk show with canned laughter that sounded obscene given the circumstances. What about Sienna? I asked finally. How long has she known? I don't know. She never said anything to me. Tonight was the first time she ever brought it up. She had location data going back 3 months, Maribel. She's known the whole time. That's impossible. She would have said something. Would she? Because it seems to me like she was planning tonight. The truth game, the kiss, the evidence, that was all orchestrated. Maribel looked confused. Why would she do that? I don't know. Maybe you should ask her. I tried calling her after you left. She's not answering. Probably busy dealing with her own relationship explosion. Do you think she's going to break up with Landon? The question was so absurd I almost laughed. Maribel, your best friend just exposed your affair in front of 20 people. I think she's probably going to do more than break up with him. I never meant for anyone to get hurt. But people did get hurt. I got hurt. Sienna got hurt. And now everyone at that party knows our business. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. What would fix it? I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd fallen in love with in college, who'd laughed at my terrible jokes and stayed up all night playing video games with me and made me believe that maybe I was worth loving. She was still there, somewhere under the guilt and the tears and the betrayal. But she was also someone who'd been lying to my face for 3 months. Someone who'd chosen another man over me week after week. Someone who'd just told me that screwing her best friend's boyfriend was the best part of her week. I don't think anything fixes this, I said finally. Don't say that. Please, we can go to counseling. I'll quit my job. We'll move somewhere new, start over. I'll do anything. Would you have done anything 3 months ago, before you started this? I don't know. That's the problem, Maribel. You don't know. You don't know why you did it, you don't know how to fix it, and you don't know if you'd do it again. I wouldn't do it again, I swear. How do I believe that? How do I ever believe anything you tell me again? She didn't have an answer for that. Neither did I. I stood up. I'm going to bed. We'll figure out the logistics tomorrow. Logistics? Who moves out? How we split things up? Whether we get lawyers involved? You're talking about divorce. I'm talking about reality. But I love you. I stopped at the bedroom door and turned back to her. Do you? Or do you love the idea of me, the security I represent, the mortgage payments and the practical decisions, and the stable life you can rebel against when you get bored? That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to me. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you talking to me before you started this. Fair would have been you ending it after the first time instead of continuing for 3 months. Fair would have been me finding out from you instead of from your best friend in front of a room full of people. You're right. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't change what happened. And it doesn't change the fact that given the same circumstances, I think you'd make the same choice again. I wouldn't. You would. Because this wasn't a mistake, Maribel. This was a choice. A choice you made over and over again for 3 months. And the only reason it stopped is because you got caught. I left her crying in the living room and went to bed alone for the first time in 3 years. I woke up to the sound of Maribel on the phone in the kitchen, her voice low and urgent. The clock on my nightstand said 7:23 a.m., which meant she'd either gotten up early or never went to sleep. I don't understand why you did it like that, she was saying. You could have talked to me privately. I lay still and listened. What do you mean you tried? When I never got any messages from you about this. No, that's not what happened. Sienna, please just tell me why you had to humiliate me in front of everyone. There was a long pause. What are you talking about? What campaign? I never sabotaged anything. That was 3 years ago, and it wasn't sabotage. It was business. You're being paranoid. Another pause, longer this time. You're lying. There's no way you've been planning this for… Hello? Hello? I heard her phone clatter onto the kitchen counter, followed by the sound of sobbing. I got dressed and went to the kitchen. Maribel was sitting at our small dining table in the same clothes from last night, her phone face down in front of her, tissues scattered around like confetti. What did Sienna say? I asked, pouring myself coffee from the pot she'd made. She's insane. Maribel's voice was hoarse. She thinks I sabotaged some campaign she was working on 3 years ago. She says she's been planning this whole thing since then. What campaign? When we both worked at Morrison Creative. There was this big account, some outdoor gear company. We were both pitching ideas, and mine got selected. She thinks I stole her concept. Did you? No. I mean, we had similar ideas, but that happens all the time in marketing. It's not like either of us invented the concept of adventure photography. I sat down across from her. But she got fired after that, didn't she? Maribel's face went pale. How did you know that? You told me. You said she'd been let go for creative differences, and that you felt bad about it. I did feel bad, but it wasn't my fault. Her work was getting sloppy. She was missing timelines, drinking too much at company events. The campaign thing was just the final straw. According to you. What's that supposed to mean? I'm just saying, maybe there's another version of this story. One where you did steal her idea, and she got blamed for it. Whose side are you on here? I'm not on anyone's side. I'm trying to understand how we got to last night. Maribel wiped her eyes. She said she's been waiting for the right moment to destroy my life. She said sleeping with Landon was just the beginning. The beginning of what? I don't know. She hung up on me. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. This is Sienna. Can we talk? Coffee at Stumptown on Division in an hour? I showed Maribel the message. Her face went white. Don't go, she said. She's manipulative. She'll try to turn you against me. More than you already have? That's not what I meant. I'm going to meet her. Why? Because I want to hear her side of the story. Because I want to understand what the hell happened last night. And because, unlike some people, I don't make important decisions without getting all the information first. Maribel flinched. I deserve that. Yeah, you did. An hour later, I was sitting in Stumptown Coffee, watching Sienna Clark walk through the door. She looked different in daylight, smaller somehow, but her eyes still had that predatory sharpness I'd noticed the night before. She ordered a cortado and sat down across from me. Thank you for coming. I'm not sure why I did. Because you want answers. And because you're smart enough to know that what happened last night was bigger than just your wife cheating on you. Okay, I'm listening. Sienna pulled out her phone and opened up a folder labeled Maribel. It contained dozens of screenshots, photos, and documents. 3 years ago, I was working on the biggest campaign of my career, Wilderness Adventures outdoor gear company based in Colorado. I'd been developing this concept for months. Find Your Wild, built around authentic adventure photography, real people doing real outdoor activities instead of the polished, fake stuff everyone else was doing. She swiped through concept sketches and mood boards, all time-stamped from 3 years earlier. I presented it to the team, got great feedback, was told to develop it further. 2 weeks later, Maribel presents almost the exact same concept. Same tagline, same visual style, same target demographic. The only difference was she'd polished the presentation better than mine. And they went with her version. And when I complained, I was told that ideas evolve in collaborative environments and that I should be happy the campaign was successful, regardless of who got credit. But you weren't happy. Would you be? I'd been working there for 2 years, had a spotless record, great reviews. Suddenly, I'm being painted as a sore loser who can't handle competition. My work started getting more scrutiny. My ideas were questioned. My timelines were moved up without warning. And you think Maribel orchestrated that? I know she did. She was friendly with the creative director, always volunteering to help with scheduling and project management. She had access to everyone's workload, everyone's timelines. It would have been easy for her to make my life difficult while making herself look indispensable. Sienna showed me more screenshots, email threads where Maribel was CC'd on projects that should have been Sienna's, meeting notes where Maribel offered to take over tasks that Sienna was supposedly falling behind on. Within 6 months, I was fired. Creative differences, they called it. Meanwhile, Maribel got promoted to senior account manager. So you've been planning revenge for 3 years? Not revenge, justice. There's a difference. Is there? Revenge is emotional. Justice is strategic. I didn't seduce Landon to hurt Maribel. I waited for her to seduce him. I stared at her. What do you mean you waited? Landon's always been attracted to unavailable women. It's his thing. Married women, women with boyfriends, women who are obviously out of his league. I knew if I put him in Maribel's orbit often enough, eventually something would happen. So you introduced them. I made sure they had opportunities to spend time together. Group dinners where I'd conveniently have to leave early for work emergencies. Parties where I'd disappear and leave them alone together. Conversations where I'd mention how unhappy Maribel seemed in her marriage. You manipulated both of them. I created opportunities. They made their own choices. And you documented everything. I documented everything. Location data, credit card receipts, hotel records. I even have photos of them together. She showed me pictures taken from a distance. Maribel and Landon entering the Marriott, holding hands in the lobby, kissing in the elevator. The timestamps went back 4 months, not 3. She's been lying about how long it's been going on, I said. She's been lying about a lot of things. The affair started as an emotional thing about 6 months ago. Text messages, long phone calls, secret lunch meetings. The physical part started 4 months ago. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know the truth. And because Maribel destroyed my career and my reputation 3 years ago, and now I've destroyed hers. What about Landon? What about him? He made his choice. He knew I was tracking his location, knew I had access to his messages, knew I would eventually find out. Part of him wanted to get caught. And now? Now, he's moving out of my place and probably moving in with your wife, at least temporarily. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. They're still together? As of this morning, yes. Apparently, last night's revelation was liberating for them. No more sneaking around, no more lies. They can be together openly now. How do you know this? Landon called me at 6 a.m. to get his things. Very apologetic, very remorseful, but also very clear that he's choosing her. I sat back in my chair. So I lose my wife, and you lose your boyfriend. But they get to ride off into the sunset together. That's one way to look at it. What's the other way? Sienna smiled that predatory smile again. The other way is that Maribel's reputation in the influencer marketing world is about to become very complicated, and Landon's startup is about to lose its biggest investor. What do you mean? I mean, I've been documenting more than just their affair. I've been documenting Maribel's work habits, her client relationships, her professional ethics. Did you know she's been inflating engagement numbers for her campaigns? Or that she's been taking kickbacks from vendors? I didn't know that. Neither did her boss. Until this morning. You got her fired. I provided information to her employer about potential misconduct. What they do with that information is up to them. And Landon? Landon's startup is funded by a very conservative venture capital firm, the kind of firm that doesn't like scandals or bad publicity. They're also the kind of firm that does extensive background checks on their portfolio company's key employees. You sent them the affair documentation. I sent them everything: the affair, the lies, the pattern of deception. Let them decide if that's the kind of person they want, representing their investment. I stared at her. You really did plan all of this. Every detail. Except one. What's that? I didn't plan on liking you. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone weak. Someone who would take her back after a few tears and apologies. Someone who would enable her the same way everyone else has. And instead? Instead, you're sitting here listening to evidence that your wife has been lying to you for even longer than you thought, and you're not making excuses for her. Should I be? Most people would be. Most people would rather believe comfortable lies than uncomfortable truths. I've never been most people. No, Sienna said, studying my face. I don't think you are. We sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the morning crowd filter in and out of the coffee shop. Young professionals grabbing their daily caffeine fix, students with laptops and textbooks, couples sharing pastries and making weekend plans. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that mine had just been dissected and explained like a biology experiment. What happens now? I asked finally. Now you decide what kind of person you want to be. The kind who accepts betrayal and moves on, or the kind who demands consequences. What kind of person are you? The kind who waits 3 years for the perfect moment to destroy someone who wronged me. And how does that feel, now that you've done it? Sienna considered the question. Empty, mostly. Revenge is like junk food. It tastes good in the moment, but it doesn't really nourish you. Any regrets? About exposing the affair? No. About the collateral damage? She looked at me. Some. I'm not collateral damage. I'm better off knowing the truth. Are you? Ask me in a year. Sienna finished her coffee and stood up. For what it's worth, I think you're going to be fine. Better than fine, actually. Why? Because you're not the kind of person who builds their happiness on someone else's lies. Maribel is. And that's the difference between you and her. She left me sitting there with a folder full of evidence that my marriage had been over long before I knew it had started ending. The question now was what I was going to do about it. I spent the rest of the day driving around Portland, trying to process everything Sienna had told me. By the time I got home, it was dark, and Maribel was pacing the living room like a caged animal. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "I've been calling you for hours." I had my phone off. "You met with her, didn't you? With Sienna?" "Yes." "I told you not to do that. I told you she was manipulative." She was also telling the truth. Maribel's face crumpled. "What did she tell you?" "Everything. The campaign she says you stole, the way you got her fired, how long you've really been cheating on me." "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think. The affair started 6 months ago, not 3. You've been lying about the timeline just like you've been lying about everything else." "Cole, please." "No." The word came out harder than I'd intended. No more lies. No more explanations. No more excuses. I'm done. What does that mean? It means I want you out of the apartment by the end of the week. You can't just kick me out. This is my home too. Actually, I can. The lease is in my name. You're not on it because your credit was shot when we moved in together, remember? She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're really going to make me homeless? I'm going to make you figure out your own life instead of using mine as a safety net while you screw around with other people. That's not what I was doing. That's exactly what you were doing. You wanted to feel free and wild and spontaneous with Landon, but you also wanted to come home to stability and security with me. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me in a way that doesn't make you sound like a selfish person who wanted everything without consequences. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. No words came out. That's what I thought. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know. Maybe Landon has a place you can stay. Her face went red. How can you be so cruel? Cruel? I've been sleeping next to someone who's been lying to my face for 6 months. I've been supporting someone who's been stealing credit for other people's work and taking kickbacks from vendors. I've been married to someone who thinks the best part of her week is screwing her best friend's boyfriend. And I'm the one being cruel? How did you know about the work stuff? Does it matter? Sienna told you. She's been investigating me. Apparently, she's been investigating both of us. The difference is, I didn't give her anything to find. Maribel sat down heavily on the couch. My boss called today. I'm being suspended pending an investigation into my client accounts. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Because you don't sound sorry. I'm sorry that you made choices that led to this. I'm not sorry that there are consequences for those choices. You used to love me. I used to love who I thought you were. Turns out that person doesn't exist. She does exist. The person you fell in love with, she's still here. Is she? Because the person I fell in love with was honest. She was loyal. She cared about other people's feelings. She wouldn't steal someone's work or cheat on her husband or lie for 6 months straight. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Maribel. This was a pattern of selfishness and deception that apparently goes back years. So that's it? 5 years together and you're just going to throw it all away? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that. She started crying again, but this time it felt different. Less desperate, more resigned. Like she was finally understanding that tears weren't going to fix this. I'll start packing tomorrow, she said quietly. Thank you. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? I thought about it for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll be able to forgive you for the affair. People cheat. People make mistakes. People get confused about what they want. But I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive you for the lies. Not just the lies about the affair, but all of it. The way you lied about being happy. The way you lied about your work. The way you made me feel like I was crazy for thinking something was wrong. I never meant to make you feel crazy. But you did. For months, I knew something was off, but every time I tried to talk to you about it, you made me feel like I was being paranoid or needy or controlling. You gaslighted me into doubting my own instincts. I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself. There's a difference. She nodded slowly. You're right. About all of it. I know I am. For what it's worth, I really did love you. I still do. I believe you. But love isn't enough if it doesn't come with respect and honesty. I know that now. Good. Maybe you'll remember that in your next relationship. She looked up at me sharply. You think there'll be a next relationship? For either of us? I hope so. I hope you figure out what you actually want and find someone who wants the same things. And I hope I find someone who knows how to be happy without blowing up other people's lives. What if what I actually want is you? Then you should have thought of that before you started screwing Landon. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Maribel moving around the apartment, packing her things. I made coffee and checked my email, trying to pretend this was just another normal day. My boss had sent a message about a new project that would require some travel. Normally, I would have discussed it with Maribel, factored in her schedule, made sure we could coordinate our lives around the work requirement. Now I just replied that I was available and interested. It felt strange, making decisions without considering someone else's needs. Strange, but also liberating. Around noon, a moving truck pulled up outside. I watched from the window as Maribel directed 2 guys in carrying out boxes and furniture. She'd divided things fairly, taking only what was clearly hers, leaving everything we'd bought together. She knocked on the bedroom door when they were finished. I'm leaving now, she said. Okay? I left my keys on the kitchen counter. Okay? And Cole? I really am sorry. About all of it. I know you are. Will you let me know how you're doing? In a few months, maybe? I don't think that's a good idea. Right, of course. She stood in the doorway for a moment longer, like she was waiting for me to change my mind, to ask her to stay, to give her one more chance. When I didn't, she nodded and left. I heard the front door close, heard the moving truck start up and drive away, heard the apartment settle into silence. For the first time in 6 months, I was alone, and I knew exactly where my wife was. She wasn't lying about working late or having client dinners or networking events. She was wherever she was supposed to be, with whoever she was supposed to be with, and it wasn't my problem anymore. I opened a beer, sat on the couch, and tried to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Sienna. I know this is weird, but do you want to get dinner sometime? Not a date, just two people who survived the same explosion. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, Rain check? I think I need to figure out who I am when I'm not married to a liar. Fair enough, the offer stands. I deleted her number and finished my beer. Tomorrow I'd start figuring out what came next. Tonight, I was just going to sit in my quiet apartment and enjoy the sound of my own thoughts for the first time in months. It was the most peaceful I'd felt in years.